terms the technology, in terms what the regulation would allow, also in terms what operation scenarios autonomy driving can apply, as well as from a business case point of view. And I could think of 4 possibilities. The first one is still in a closed environment. Instead of using AGVs, how about implementing autonomous driving? The benefit of that is because the autonomous vehicle, the autonomous truck, for example, it's much lighter than the AGVs. As such, for example, the requirement for the pavement becomes less, hence the investment cost would become less as well. That would be my first guess. And the second application I could think in the short to a medium term is to limit the capability of the autonomous trucks. Think an example of using trucks for the rail container transfer between the landside ASCs and the rail terminal. You could possibly think, okay, if I limit the speed of the autonomous trucks using, for example, dedicated interchange zones, change lanes at the landside interchange zone of ASC, also using dedicated traffic lane in order to manage the, let's say, avoid the interaction between the manned and the unmanned vehicle. At these critical points, that's the manned vehicle and the unmanned vehicle need to interact. You could also apply, for example, traffic lights or certain other traffic rules to manage this interaction. The downside is, of course, if you limit the capability, the cycle time of the unmanned vehicle would become longer. As such, you possibly need more vehicle to support to reach the same level of the performance. But you could then do a proper business case comparison, looking into the extra investment cost needed for the more vehicle, needed for the more expensive vehicle, and on the other hand, the possible saving of the labor in the operating cost. And the third possibility I could think of is to have these human-controlled autonomy. You could also think of one-on-one, basically have one teleoperator in a central control room control one vehicle. Or you could also think of, what if I have one guy driving several vehicles at the same time? Or you could also think of part of the process can be autonomy, and the remaining process can be human controlled or human monitored. And the benefits, of course, is that the driver would have a much better working environment in the control room instead of driving the vehicle on the terminal itself. And that itself could be already a very important business case driver for the application. And the fourth possibility I could think of is to use, for example, the autonomous driving for housekeeping during the night when there's no external traffic around. So in this case, you can avoid these interactions. At the same time, you can basically use the time effectively and use the autonomous driving to prepare, for example, the next day operation as a consequence to help the operation in the second day. And I think these would be my 4 choices of what the autonomy can be applied with a very sensible business case, with a very sensible application in the short to medium term.